In this final video, we're going to talk about creating the final media. There may be instances where you are going to create a CD compatible bounce, and you should know what that is. Your final audio would need to be 44.1 16-bit to work on a CD player. And also, there may be instances where you want to add dither to your master fader, and we'll explain what dither is. In addition to that, we'll talk about creating an archive and the best way to do that. Once you've created your final mix, you may have a mix that's either 24-bit or 32-bit floating point. And you remember from prior discussions, CDs and other final media generally tend to be 44.1 for your sample rate and 16-bit for your bit depth. In order to maintain the highest possible audio quality when reducing the bit depth, sometimes it's necessary to dither your audio. And usually we dither the audio one of two ways. We can just dither it manually inside of Pro Tools by exporting the file as a certain file type, or we can use the dither plugin. We're going to talk a little bit about using the dither plugin when you're creating your final mix. The most common application to use a dither plugin is on your master output, and you'll be using it as the last processor in the signal path. So for example, if I had maybe some dynamics on here like this, and maybe a master EQ or something like that, like this, then the last thing in the signal chain would want to be the dither plugin. So we could come down here to Avid to the power dither plugin, and we would add this as the last plugin in our chain. There are many dither plugins that are available. This is the one that's provided by Pro Tools or by Avid, and so we're going to talk a little bit about this and what some of the options are. Power dither. Power stands for a psychoacoustically optimized word length reduction, POWR. There are a few options that are available here. You can either have the final output be 20-bit or 16-bit. There are 3 noise shaping types that you can also select from, and we're going to talk about both of these options right now. Generally speaking, if you're using the dither plugin, I don't see much need to reduce to 20-bit. If you're trying to reduce your bit depth down, you're usually wanting to go to 16-bit. So that, generally speaking, is the option that you're going to choose if you're using the dither plugin. Noise shaping is a little different. Each of these 3 types of noise shaping have different qualities associated with them. Type 1 is generally used for solo instruments or also spoken word recordings. Type 2 is the best type to use for pop music, things of that nature, things that have greater stereophonic complexity. So pop and rock music is a great one for that. Type 3 is generally used for classical music or orchestral music. It's best suited for that type of thing. Any type of material that has a broad dynamic range. It, however, can also be effective in pop or contemporary music styles as well. So type 1 for soloistic or solo instrument or voiceovers, type 2 for pop, type 3 for classical. So those are the options for the power plugin. One final thing that's important to note is that if you are planning on taking your final project to a mastering house to have a mastering engineer master your project for you, it's best not to use any dithering. You want to create a final mix that is the highest resolution possible, so you would leave the bit depth alone and not reduce it via a dither plugin, and allow the mastering engineer to do that. So that's one thing to remember. If you're sending your final project onto a mastering house, don't dither your project. If you're not, and you will be creating yourself your final version, then dithering is something that you'll be doing. Let's say, for example, that we are working on this piece. We've finished it. We've created our final mix, which is right here. And we're sending it to a mastering house. So we didn't use any dithering on the master bus. And we're ready to archive this project. So first thing we're going to do is clear all of the unused clips. You guys remember how to do this from an earlier chapter, chapter 7. We can come here to the edit window, and we're going to come up here to the clips drop-down menu and say select all unused. Shift Command U. So I'm going to use that command, Shift Command U, and I've selected all of the unused data. Next will be to delete that data. So I can come over here and I can say clear, Shift Command B. I'll use that shortcut, Shift Command B. And the book says to just remove the clips. I don't know why they don't say delete the clips. That's what I prefer to do. Anyway, we'll remove the clips in this case. And then we need to create a session copy. So we can come up here and we can save copy in. We're going to choose audio files. If we're using some other information, like maybe a video, maybe we're posting this, it's for a film or something. So a variety of things we may want to save. I'm going to just say movie, video files, and audio files. We click OK. We choose a new destination for that, maybe the desktop, and we click Save. And Pro Tools starts exporting all of the audio that's inside the session. When this finishes, we'll look at opening that copied session and doing some further enhancements to create an archive. So now we've opened our copy of Roadhouse Rock 1, version 4, and this is the copy that we just created. So I placed it on my desktop and then I just opened this. So now we can continue on with the process. We've already created a session copy. Now we're going to do something called compacting sound files. Compacting sound files is the process by which we reduce the size of all of our parent audio files in our copy of our session by eliminating any unused portions of the files that aren't being used. This is called compacting sound files. So when you do this, Pro Tools permanently deletes any portions of the parent files that are not currently used in a specific audio clip. Also, when you are using compacting sound files, you can add a certain amount of padding. So what's padding? Padding is a certain amount of audio on either side of the clip. I tend to compact my sound files with a little bit of padding on either side. The reason for that is if at a later date I need to come back into this session and do a little minor editing, I've got a little bit of padding on either side of my audio clip to work with. Okay, so we come up here to the clips list and we can select all, Shift Command A, and that's selected all of our available audio. And then we can come over here and we can say compact. And here it tells us what the process is. It's going to delete everything that's not used. So I'm going to be fine with 1,000 milliseconds of padding. After compacting, a save will occur. Do you want to proceed? Yes, I do. And so let's go ahead and compact that. So it's analyzing now every audio file that's in use in this session and removing all of the additional audio from clips that we are no longer using or that have been deleted. So now we have a session with compacted audio files, and they only include portions of audio that you are using in the session plus any padding that you selected. You should never compact audio files that are being referenced in other Pro Tools sessions for obvious reasons. Perhaps you are using different audio clips. So if you compact this session and it's using some audio files in use in another session in the same audio files folder, then it's going to delete material that you don't want deleted. So this is an undoable permanent deletion of audio material. So this is the last process you should go through when finishing a project.